Border towns are clearing out as troops pursue migrants. Well, let's see.
For quiet hours on the border, one migrant was apprehended and fought back cheers as he was met by
officers.
6 federal agents who were likely to kick him back to Mexico within the same day.
So the U.S. border looks very different now than it did just a few.
I bet that dude paid like $10,000+ in order to get smuggled across the border, got immediately caught. These coyotes are banking right now, just kind of throwing them over the border and wishing them for the best.
Months ago when thousands of people per day were entering America. But that's changed, and many unlawful immigrants find they're outnumbered, quickly apprehended, and immediately returned to Mexico, which in some cases puts people in an even more desperate situation than they were before getting caught, as many have just given their entire life savings to smugglers for absolutely nothing.
This is exclusive new video that shows
their whole life savings
in Illinois leading police on a dangerous high-speed chase.
It doesn't look that high speed. Y'all are in a fucking field. There's nothing like, what are they gonna do? Hit some fucking rodents? So what? I mean, property damage? Okay.
Field.
Well, new Border Patrol data now revealing that migrant encounters have dropped dramatically since Trump took office. Now, despite the overall drop in numbers,
the chances of you losing your entire life savings have like quintupled. You're dealing not only with border units and officers and a small amount of them for sure that can be easily overwhelmed, but now you're also dealing with soldiers. And not to mention, before you used to get caught and then you would be able to stay in America after you got caught. And now you have to go back to Mexico. So you have to stay in Mexico now. So it's not like they get thrown over the border, they get caught, and then now they get like let out into some, and then go to some sanctuary city to live. No, they go directly back across the border as far as I'm concerned. I mean, if I'm wrong, you guys let me know.
Smugglers are still finding ways to bring migrants in illegally.
Soy triste. Que no crucé.
No pienso volver a salir de mi país porque quedé de verdad traumatizado con todo lo que pasé.
In an interview with our partner Telemundo, Kevin Rodriguez says he was detained in Guantanamo for 14 days.
That sucks,
there are still
dude.
Thousands of migrants in Mexico stuck in limbo. Smugglers in Mexico are capitalizing on the desperation of migrants and actually
imagine thinking this is good content. Yeah, I mean, we're just watching YouTube videos, man.
Across the Rio
Grande. In with us. I like to talk a lot, though.
They spend all their money, all their savings, all their resources.
I remember being down here nearly a year ago and seeing people desperate to get into the U.S. to get caught and then released. That's all over under this administration.
Some banging music in the background.
There are now so many troops at the border, it's turning into a ghost town.
That's what I was saying.
Just a few months ago, nobody running our country would even admit we had the resources to do something like this and shut down the border in the first place. And for years, everyone said we had the most secure border in history, and that restricting it further was not just impossible, but possibly inhumane, as closing it would just mean desperate people with nowhere to go would wait indefinitely in the middle of the Mexican desert, which hasn't happened. In fact, many unlawful residents already inside America are voluntarily deporting themselves if they don't think their asylum applications will get approved. And all of this has created a situation at the border that just makes ICE's job easier, requiring less resources, not more. Because if the place is a ghost town, when someone does decide to cross, a rapid response can immediately take place. And by quickly arresting those who illegally enter the country and turning them back, a message is being sent to the entire world that America's front door.
We're gonna change the world. But actually, we're just going to watch YouTube videos.
Or is no longer unlocked. But that brings us to the real reason this border crackdown had to start as quickly and rapidly as it has. Over the last 4 years, the country has seen record illegal immigration. And closing the border is just the first step in getting the dangerous gang members and criminals out of our country for good. A process that could take a long time, as millions of people have recently entered America. And as we're learning, not everyone has come here with good intentions, with some of the world's most dangerous criminals and gang members doing whatever they can to hide in plain sight.
Well, this was one of the
How do you know they're
largest
gang
operations
members?
we have
maybe
seen
there is
yet.
a way
Around
to tell,
90 illegal migrants were arrested. Border Czar Tom Homan joined that operation. He tells me it was phase 1 of a larger criminal investigation.
Look at that, almost 100 people arrested in just 1 raid. And with none of these individuals having legal permission to be in the country, this reveals a huge problem. The border can't just be shut down. It needs to be shut down while enforcement ramps up inside the United States. And as you're about to see, people who are particularly dangerous could end up in America's most controversial detention center.
Now we're hearing for the first time about the conditions inside the military base turned detention center. In an interview with our partner Telemundo, Kevin Rodriguez says he was detained in Guantanamo for 14 days. Now reunited with his family in Venezuela, he recalls spending days stuck inside a 9-by-6 foot cell.
I like how somebody who's like straight up Venezuelan is like upset about Gitmo. Who's probably never been to a Venezuelan prison. I'm pretty sure they suck a lot worse. But I don't know. Never been to either one.
Okay, so here you have a guy who was detained at Guantanamo Bay, but not in the humanitarian relief center settings, but inside one of the actual cells, something that ICE says is reserved for people who they think are dangerous or are a higher level of offender in some regard. But it looks like he doesn't have plans to come back. Obviously, being deported is probably a frightening experience. And while he says the place he was in was dirty and not cleaned, every picture we get on the news looks like this. The place looks spotless. It looks nicer than a lot of jails in places like New York, that's for sure. But regardless, sentiments like these have a lot to do with why border crossings are down in the first place. If someone's going to be caught and there's a whole operation in place to quickly move you out of the country back to where you started, the whole idea of secretly entering America looks like a big waste of time, which is completely different than how it looked just a few months ago.
The Post recently got the opportunity to ride along with Border Patrol agents in the El Paso, Texas sector, which spans both West Texas and New Mexico. In the span of just 4
unsure, but I'm pretty sure that most of the people who come in through the border are coming around El Paso. As far as like the what do they call them? The criminals, the cartel members, the gangsters.
Quiet hours on the border, one migrant was apprehended and fought back tears as he was met by 6 burly federal agents who were likely to kick him back to Mexico within the same day.
Okay, so this guy did what a lot of people do. He paid smugglers to help get into the country, but he was immediately caught and he's being immediately turned back. And he says that it cost him $7,000. That's a lot of money to throw down the drain, that's for sure. That could bankrupt somebody.
Like, honestly, how many people in the United States citizens, have $7,000 laying around? How many do you think? How many? We could ask GPT real quick. I'm actually quite curious. Chat GPT got for me. You know, I pay $20 a month just so we can get better Chat GPT answers. How many Americans have $7,000 available to them? I guess you could get loans. You could get loans. The average American family has 62,000 in transaction accounts, which includes savings, checking, money market accounts, call, deposit, and prepaid. Okay, I guess I'm fucking broke. Median savings balance is significantly lower than the average, indicating that while some... Oh, because we're doing averages and not mean, so that means that, like, the billionaires have, like, completely inflated those costs. 45% of Americans could cover a $1,000 emergency expense without resorting to credit cards or loans, suggesting limited liquid. Yeah, so basically they are paying more than most people even have in order to come over here, and then they're getting sent back. It's just
and with the border now on total lockdown, with there being more agents there that
I mean, they played themselves, but, you know, it still sucks.
And there are people trying to get across. The idea of illegal immigration is now a bad one. Not only because it's an immediate waste of time and money, but also because if you enter the country illegally, you can no longer apply for asylum. And thus, there is no more asylum crisis.
It was his second attempt crossing the border.
Second attempt.
Which just cost him $7,000.
Unbridled, do you agree? You agree with me? You think that it's stupid to pay like $7,000 for a coyote to get you across the border, even if you're desperate?
In smuggling fees
a long
to
way
the
in a different country.
or cartel operatives who helped him make entry.
So he spent over 10 grand trying to get into the country.
10 grand. Holy shit.
Some of these illegal aliens, they spend all their money, all their savings, all their resources to make this illegal entry into the United States.
With more manpower and time.
Okay, so it's important to understand that people aren't going to spend everything they have trying to come to America if they can't stay once they get here. Previously,
right?
That was how things worked, and that's why we
had
the asylum crisis. Apparently, this person, he's one of 395 people that are now caught per day, which is down from what looks like...
So these coyotes making like $400,000 per day, sending people over the border just to get sent back.
A peak of 1,800 per day in 2023.
I'm in the wrong business, you guys.
And there's another disincentive that nobody's talking about, which also stops people from thinking that they can come to America and get in the country without permission and then live a semi-normal life, even if they set up shop in a sanctuary city.
The Department of Homeland Security says the app once used to help migrants travel to the U.S. will now only be available to aid non-citizens in leaving the country. The CBP One app is a free resource that individuals can download on their phones. The TSA also used the app to verify migrants when using airport security.
Okay, so this app was not only your immigration documentation after you get apprehended at the border, what it also ended up being was your ID to get on a plane. But there's a huge problem with that, because look at this. Apparently, when some people enter the United States and get apprehended, they don't bring their ID. They discard it. And
of course, why would you?
Officials have to take them at their word. If they say that their name is John Smith, then that's what name goes into that paperwork, which then gets shown to the TSA and is someone's ID. And aside from the fact that this is a major security risk, letting people who have been unidentified on airplanes, this also means that people who might be living in a sanctuary city, like let's say New York, and might have been using this app to travel around the country, now they can't do that. Now they have to stay in one location until their asylum case finishes. And with all of these disincentives combined, the rapid deportation process, the impossibility of crossing a border that is staffed with armed troops, and now the inability to come here and kind of travel around the country however you'd wish, all of that together means people just aren't interested in coming here anymore. Look, it's empty.
The smugglers trying to move people who are trying
to
get away from Border Patrol by going through these peaks and valleys of this mountainous area.
Looks like it sucks, but you probably shouldn't wear a red shirt.
This is an
First of all, because people who wear red shirts are dumb. Okay. Wait, no. Probably because it contrasts really, really well with the backdrop. And not only do they have thermal cameras and all this other technology and speakers and sound things that can catch you, but also they have eyeballs. So they can freaking see you, my guy. Wear like beige, wear tan, wear something that kind of like matches the terrain. It's called camouflage. And yeah, even the dumbest of animals know how to do that.
It's used by Border Patrol to detect any of those runners so that they can alert agents.
What a total 180. That's crazy. Look at that. Just people coming right up to the fence. Border Patrol overwhelmed.
And tackled troops on their way.
And you know why it's empty right now? It's because the people that might have done that a year ago now know that things will play out very differently. They won't get to stampede the border and then be released into America, which many of these folks were. In fact, some of the folks that were part of that stampede, what they had happen to them was their charges were dismissed. So they didn't suffer any consequences for hurting other people or tearing down border barriers. But if you try something like that today, you're going to get sent maybe to Guantanamo if the Trump administration
kind of
thinks
a
that
huge
you're
deal
dangerous,
too, isn't it?
or you'll just be immediately turned back around and any money you spent is gone. And the main contributor to this was this
the cost is getting too high, you guys.
Policy,
it's a deterrent, and that's the cheapest and easiest way to keep people from coming here.
Canceled. What this policy said was that you can seek asylum, but you have to remain in the country that you're seeking it from. You can't enter America and then file an asylum claim.
Sabrina, thank you so much for the follow. I appreciate you. We're going to change the world one day. But actually, we're just going to watch YouTube videos.
Claim and then wait here to see how that plays out. That's why we had the asylum crisis, because asylum seekers were
nice
not allowed to wait
in there, man.
in America and come to cities like New York that give away free shelter beds and just wait until their case is either successful or unsuccessful. And since there's no enforcement on basic immigration law, many people were staying here after they were already told, hey, you didn't qualify for asylum, you have to leave the country. People were just staying. But smuggling people into America, that's big business. These cartels, these gangsters, these smugglers, coyotes as they're called, they're making a lot of money bringing people across. And they're still telling their customers, hey, we can get you in, but they are saying it's going to cost a little more because security is now tighter.
There are still thousands of migrants in Mexico stuck in limbo after President Trump did end that CBP-1 program. Now, smugglers in Mexico are capitalizing on the desperation of migrants and actually charging up to $18,000 just
$18,000? They said that there was over 365 people.
Dollars. And since the people who get smuggled in aren't around to immediately dissuade others and say,
$500,000 a day or more.
Hey, it didn't work for me, I got caught. These guys still have unlimited customers. They're scamming these people. And look at this. The gentleman that was in that New York Post story, it says that it was his second time crossing the border. So if he spent $7,000 each time, he's $14,000 in the hole and he hasn't made it. And even if he did, it's dubious what he would even accomplish being here, because you can't seek asylum if you've entered the country illegally. You can't do that anymore. The policy is now remain in Mexico. But that is not stopping the smugglers.
We got the opportunity to ride along with Texas state troopers in the RGV area. This is an area that is seeing an uptick in smuggling, with migrants now trying to enter the U.S. undetected, while smugglers in Mexico are looking to make big bucks. Just within our first hour with Texas trooper Guadalupe Casares, he received an alert right away from a camera showing individuals entering the U.S. illegally.
Yeah, it's like not even challenging to find these people anymore. It's like you have to dig tunnels underneath the wall, and then even then you can probably get. They probably have microphones in the ground that track and they can detect when someone's digging underneath the wall now.
They track the individual's footsteps, eventually leading them to two Mexican nationals lying on the ground and attempting to hide from authorities. They do believe that the male in that purple hoodie that you're about to see in your video was...
So these guys were hiding in a cornfield thinking that they could evade Border Patrol, but there's all this technology at the border right now. There's thermal cameras, there's drones, there are eyes in the sky, and look at this place. It's very flat. There's not a lot of areas to hide. It's not like a place where you've got caves and ravines. No, it's flat. They're catching people quickly. And with the border czar saying that anyone who gets caught entering the country illegally now will face a 10-year ban and can't come back, a lot of people are just deciding that, hey, this is not worth it. I'm not going to try to come in because then I may never get in. But these smugglers, they're still promising people that they can get them in. And they're not telling people that their legal pathways expire the second they break the law to come here. And now they're changing their tactics to try and get people through in ways that they did not attempt in the past.
We got to see that firsthand. What was interesting is that under the Biden administration, smugglers would actually purposely move those migrant groups in areas that were heavily patrolled by Border Patrol agents. This would then overwhelm agents on the American side, drawing all those resources to focus on the migrants. Now, we're also noticing that smugglers are now moving in smaller groups, but now in areas that are less patrolled by either Texas troopers, National Guard, or Border Patrol agents, all three now working to deter
because they know they're going to get sent back to Mexico.
Isn't that fascinating? In the past, the goal was to bring people into the country and get caught by Border Patrol, because then these folks would be paroled into the country itself because of the Remain in Mexico policy being canceled. But now that getting caught is basically the end of your journey. They don't want to get caught anymore. So now they're taking smaller groups. They're charging those people more money. They're trying to sneak around where border security might be. These AI-powered listening devices, cameras, the drones. That probably has a lot to do with why prices are now close to almost $20,000 according to this report.
Texas DPS drones also playing a critical role when it comes to spotting smugglers. Here, they captured
a drone that can be used to help in search and rescue operations. I'm a drone pilot as well. I can fly a drone, and these drones that they have that you can buy for like $17,000 or so. They have thermal cameras on them. They're used for finding people in natural disasters. So obviously they're gonna be able to find somebody in a freaking desert walking across flat terrain. Like, there's not many places to hide. There's not. It's a very challenging thing to do to get around that. And now there's so many people at the border, like you can't get over. You can't. There's just nearly impossible at this point. Nearly
action as a
impossible.
smuggler
Now we have
attempts
to worry
to
about
move.
the ones that are already here committing crimes. Again, I'm not an advocate for just like, you know, some random abuela, some grandma somewhere who's not committing any crimes other than just being here to make a better life for their family out of desperation. Like, that's not the people I'm talking about. I'm talking about the cartel members smuggling assault weapons back into America, because a lot of them came from America in the first place. Yeah.
3 Mexican nationals across the Rio Grande. As soon as those individuals did reach American soil, they were quickly apprehended while the smuggler actually paddled back to Mexico, likely looking to smuggle another group. We did also witness scouts on the Mexican side
dropping them off to the border security.
That is pretty wild. So these guys in this raft, they smuggled people over. You can see them here entering the country. Those people immediately get caught, but as they're getting arrested, he's on his way back to Mexico.
He's the border people probably made like a deal with him. Bring us the people so we can send them back, and we'll give you money, because he's already getting paid to smuggle the people across anyways. So like he can get double paid if he just drops them off to the border patrols.
To bring more people across who are just essentially getting
beautiful business, unethical business practice. I love it. It's so immoral.
Turned over to Border Patrol, who says they're going to then have them back in Mexico within hours. That's insane. And I don't think people understand that once they come here, there is absolutely nothing that they're going to accomplish unless it is their goal to be here as a criminal. And that creates a very dangerous situation, because people who
can only do crime to make money now.
To a place like New York, where they can get a fake ID or a copy of somebody else's ID, which they can pay for, and then work legally, illegally at a local business, tricking them into hiring them, or just work at a business that hires people who are here unlawfully and exploits them, underpays them. There is no room to come here and be otherwise law-abiding. People now have to fully subject themselves to the criminal underworld, and it's wrong for a country to have a system in place that empowers criminals. That just puts the law-abiding general public at risk. What do you think about that? Are all of these disincentives at the border and in sanctuary cities a good thing? Is that going to keep America, the general public, and law-abiding immigrants safe? Or is this what the activists are telling us? Is this the first step to some sort of mass roundup against people who may not speak English at home? Something activists are telling people out there, trying to stir up fear. Let me know. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next video.
Yeah, you're pretty much screwed if you're trying to get into this country at this point. This is kind of really up the ante. There's a lot of bad things that can happen to you now if you get caught. And I think incentivizing them to not do this, or basically making the cost too high, is going to be what actually changes things. Because right now we're spending a bunch of taxpayer dollars. But if it's not worth it anymore, then we won't be spending that money, and they'll stop coming.